The 1990s seemed to be the first major peak in edgy entertainment, from movies to television and comic books and to, of course, video games. Many already existing things created newer, cooler, and darker identities for themselves to appeal to the changing of eras. Perhaps one of the best examples of this could be seen with the Mega Man series that I should totally be looking at before this one, but we can get to it. Mega Man wasn't dying or anything. In fact, it was still tremendously successful and would continue to see NES releases throughout the Super Nintendo's lifespan. The idea for Mega Man X was to just branch away from the main Mega Man series, but keep the fundamentals that make a Mega Man game, well, a Mega Man game. Series character designer and the man considered to be the father of Mega Man, Keiji Inafune, explained that with the transition to the next generation of consoles, Mega Man needed to be reinvented through expanded gameplay and a more mature storyline. The newest incarnation of Mega Man, known as Mega Man X, or from here on out just X, sported an older look rather than his previous childlike one, along with this capability of wearing different sets of armor, which we will get into in a bit. At first, X wasn't even going to look anything like his previous version and would appear more fiery with long blonde hair. According to Keiji Inafune, such a drastic change in character design probably wouldn't have gone over very well with already existing fans of Mega Man, so this new look would become the character that we all know as Zero, series regular badass,
What am I fighting for?
and eventual protagonist of the Mega Man Zero series. Mega Man X is easily my favorite Super Nintendo game along with Castlevania 4, and one of my favorite games of all time. Sadly, I no longer have my Super Nintendo copy or my PS2 copy of the Mega Man X collection, but I do own both of the Mega Man X Legacy collection, so that's the version of this game we'll be taking a look at today. Upon booting up the game, we're shown a computer login screen being accessed by one Dr. Kane. That leads to a specification screen for X along with a really alarming warning message from X's creator, Dr. Thomas Light, who also created the original Mega Man. X is not your average robot. X is incredibly unique and possesses the ability to think, feel, and make his own decisions, and that if X were ever to take it upon himself to hurt a human, nothing on Earth could stop him. Dr. Light then goes on to say at the time of that message he would be sealing X away for the next 30 years. 100 years have passed between Dr. Light sealing X away and passing away, and Dr. Kane finding X's capsule. Intrigued by X's unique design, Dr. Kane analyzed Dr. Light's notes, and within months is able to create robots similar in design to X called Reploids. Despite being made with the intention of peace towards humans, some seemingly defective Reploids began to attack them, being labeled as Mavericks. In order to resolve this issue, the Maverick Hunters group was formed. The most advanced Reploid, Sigma, was assigned as their leader, and although he was a pacifist by nature, X's strong sense of justice led him to also join the group. This leads to the events of Day of Sigma, a pretty decently voice-acted OVA included in Mega Man X's PSP remake, Maverick Hunter X. The Maverick Hunters are taking care of business as usual, but X's constant worrying about the worst in situations is becoming more and more problematic when carrying out missions, and he is scolded by a superior Sigma. Sigma meets with Dr. Kane and ends up discussing X's constant worrying, the latter stating that X's ability to worry about the safety of others is part of his endless potential and what makes him great. Meanwhile, X and his superior Zero are sent to investigate the origin of a cyber attack at the behest of Sigma. After deducing that it was an inside job, the two go on about their day with Zero having some serious suspicions as to who the culprit is. The following day, the Maverick Hunters were conducting business as usual, but X and Zero were called to return to their base because the dangerous prisoner and former Maverick Hunter Vile has escaped. Noticing that the scene within the jail looked identical to the one from the night before, Zero was able to quickly figure out who was responsible for both incidents, and that the release of Vile was nothing but a diversion. Finally tracing where the cyber attack from the night before had come from, X and Zero made their way to the missile base only to find Sigma, who after trying to play his appearance there off as coincidence, attempts to stab Zero in the back. Anticipating this attack, Zero is able to avoid Sigma's strike. A short battle ensues with Sigma of course coming out on top, who in typical big bad guy fashion monologues about how he has approached all of his strongest Maverick Hunters and talked them into joining his cause. That cause being the evolution of Reploids as a life form, seemingly inspired by the potential that X has within himself. Sigma then launches a missile strike on Able City, where Dr. Kane resides. As Sigma taunts X and blames his inability to act under pressure for the missile launch, X seems to tap into his limitless potential and grabs Sigma right by his bitch-ass face, giving him his signature scars. X shuts down afterwards, and instead of just fucking killing X and Zero and saving himself a shitload of trouble in the future, a shitload, Sigma just up and leaves after finally seeing what X was capable of, content, just chilling. Zero becomes the new leader of the Maverick Hunters, and now we are up to speed with the beginning of the game. X finds himself in Able City on a mission to stop the Maverick threat and ultimately find Sigma. Instead of Sigma, X runs into Vile, who quickly overpowers him but is run off by Zero in his badass theme song. Zero sets off to find Sigma's fortress, while X hunts down and fucking obliterates the same Reploids that Sigma deserted with. By the time X is through with the Maverick leaders, Zero locates Sigma's fortress, and the two go on and finally end this shit once for all. Not really. Vile shits on X again, and Zero sacrifices himself to give X a chance. Venturing on without Zero, X reaches Sigma and just absolutely wrecks his shit. He kills the man's dog and everything. The victorious X watches Sigma's fortress sink into the ocean from a cliffside and laments the destruction before him that he helped to cause, wondering why he even chose to fight in the first place, and for how long will he have to fight before he learns the reason behind it. Not quite the happy ending that we wanted, and we even got a post-credit appearance from our not-so-dead buddy Sigma here, who just talks some shit about how what X destroyed was only a temporary body and that his spirit remains like he's some sort of ultimate transcendent higher power. Sigma then vows to return very, very soon, because of course he does. Thanks to the PSP remake and Day of Sigma, Mega Man X has a much stronger narrative than it originally did. You could consider the remake and the OVA to be in a different continuity, but it's easier to just lump it up with the original. Otherwise, we just get started with the game right after the beginning intro screen, and that's it. But that's still okay since the game itself is just a fucking masterpiece. As I mentioned earlier, this game sticks to the formula established in previous Mega Man games. It's a run-and-gun platformer where you can just regular shooty-shoot or mega shooty-shoot enemies, defeat 8 bosses, steal their powers that can be used as weaknesses to other bosses, or some really efficient ways to just blaze through stages. Specifically the Storm Tornado. Dear fucking god, this attack just blows shit away. And then go through to an in-game fortress where you fight all of those 8 bosses again, along with more bosses like old Rang Da Bang Da here, and finally the final boss. This never changes no matter the Mega Man game you play, but the X series takes it up a notch. X can dash once you find his leg upgrade. Too bad it just doesn't get rid of all the fucking knockback. I'll get to other armor upgrades in a bit, and he can scale and slide down walls. This added depth to platform makes the game feel a lot more fair than others, and it also feels like the player's more involved. Why ride on some basic little flat elevator platform all the time when you can wall kick all the way up a big ass wall or dash jump over long distances? X's armor pieces that you can find hidden in several stages inside of these capsules also add some more depth to the core gameplay. The headpiece allows X to headbutt these funny looking little blocks that only appear a couple of times in the game, one of these times blocking entrance to another armor capsule. Then we have the body armor upgrade, which cuts the damage that X receives by half. This is incredibly useful when you're battling a boss that has some really strong and hard to avoid attacks like Armored Armadillo and the entire Sigma fight, for example. The last armor upgrade that can be acquired is the arm part, which gives X's X-Buster a third more powerful level of charging and can also charge special weapons and make them especially useful. Whether you find this capsule or not, X still gets the upgrade anyway since Zero gives it to him as he's dying, so all that really matters is how early or late in the game you want to get it. Most charged weapons produce an area of effect that can really give X some breathing room. Of course, Storm Tornado has my favorite weapon charge. It creates this massive vertical tornado that absolutely drops ass all over enemies like mini-bosses. The charged version of the Chameleon Sting is probably the most useful of the bunch though, since it does make X invincible for a few seconds, and this helps a lot in the Sigma levels later on in the game. There are also some more really useful collectibles that can be found within the 8 main stages, such as 8 of these health bar extending hearts that are simply called life ups, and 4 sub-tanks that act as spare health reserves and can be used to restore X up to full health depending on how many health pickups you've gathered while already at full health. Fuck, how many times did I just say health? Be it base X or X with everything under the sun within its disposal, this game is tremendously fun and always worth a replay whenever you get that itch. And each time you play it can be completely different as well if you defeat certain bosses before visiting certain stages or even when you go to revisit a stage. You'll notice some huge differences. Defeating Storm Eagle causes this ship to crash into Spark Mandrill's electrified level, causing constant blackouts, and actually makes the level easier, especially when it comes to this stupid ass mini-boss. Defeating Launch Octopus will cause Sting Chameleon's stage to become noticeably, well, more watery. If you beat Chill Penguin, who was the obvious first boss you should go after, all of the lava and flame man the stage will be frozen over. Some of these stage effects are necessary for acquiring a few collectibles, and others can be gathered from a distance with the Boomerang Cutter ability. Learning the ins and outs of this game and how to kick some major ass takes a lot of experimentation, which is always worth the hassle. Learning all of the boss weaknesses so the game can be an absolute cakewalk, falling down into what seems like a bottomless pit in order to find another Dr. Light capsule, sinking this boat so you can fight a big eel thingy protecting a health upgrade. All of these are just examples of the freedoms that you have within Mega Man X. You can also have X learn how to do the Hadouken attack from the Street Fighter series. This sounds absolutely ridiculous, and the steps to actually do it are even more so. I'm not kidding, the shit sounds like something that one asshole kid in your kindergarten class would tell you on the playground, knowing that you're gonna legitimately be fooled into trying it for hours on end. But in this case, he's actually kinda right. As long as you obtain every single sub-tank, life up, and armor part, you can get to this point at the end of Armadillo's stage and hop off this platform at the highest point of this jump to a cliff. There will be a health pickup on the cliff, grab it, then jump to your death. Keep repeating this process like 4 or 5 times until you see a capsule on the cliff. Let me tell you now, this is totally worth doing. As long as X is at full health, the Hadouken can be input the same way that it is in the Street Fighter games and is a one-hit kill on almost every single enemy in the game. The endgame rematches against the bosses you've already fought are over in seconds with this attack. Whether you have the Hadouken, know all the enemy's weaknesses, or just absolutely nothing, boss fights are still going to be pretty thrilling. Taking advantage of the super smooth and responsive controls to memorize enemy attack patterns makes the game feel like a graceful dance, sorta. The battle may take a minute or a few minutes, but it's going to be fun and intense anyway. Unless you're Spark Mandrill. There really isn't a single forgettable thing about this game. You'll never forget a boss's weakness, you'll never forget which basic enemy is going to be wherever they always are, making you always dash to a level with a charged X Buster shot just waiting to shit all over the next thing you see. You'll never forget to grind these little worm dudes to fill your sub-tanks before the Sigma fight. And without a fucking doubt, you're always going to remember every single piece of music in this game for the rest of your life. Well, maybe, not really, but the music in this game really is pretty damn good. Probably the best in the entire Mega Man X series. I can't even pick a favorite tune in this game since they're all so great. Each song really complements whatever level it's played in, and to be honest, every time I see snow in a different video game, I can only think of Chill Penguin's level theme. It just fits. When the music is paired with how colorful and unique each level appears, the music does an outstanding job of creating atmospheres and makes you feel pretty immersed in the game. I'd say that the best example of this is in the first Sigma stage. Here, you're finally going after Sigma and almost to his doorstep. This fucking badass tune with an even more badass bass line is playing while you just mow down all the enemies in X's path and hopping onto these annoying platforms as the sun sets. This trek upward into the belly of the beast is Mega Man X's own legacy as more than just a B-class Maverick Hunter being created. But more importantly, this song tells you just how determined X is to finally slap Sigma on his bald-ass head. I'm really not even going to hide how I feel about this game. Barring a weak narrative and some gameplay issues like annoying knockback and some admittedly shitty enemy placement in certain places, Mega Man X is damn near perfect to me. But do I feel this way about the rest of the Mega Man X series though? I spent a lot of time with some of the other games, especially X4 and X5. Taking a look at the rest of the series is going to be an awesome thing to do on this channel, and it can actually help me see how I really feel about some of my favorite games. Each video for Mega Man X may not come consecutively, it really just depends on if I'm towards the point of being burnt out or not. But in the meantime, stay tuned for when I do take a look at Mega Man X2, being in the next video or the one after. And also be sure to like and subscribe if you want to do that sort of thing. Thank you all, and take care.